Hi, I'm Britton LaRue, and this is Moon to Moon. Moon to Moon is a space to consider, celebrate, and share the ways we come home to ourselves, anchor through change, and uncover our power. 1 month, one phase, one loving step at a time. Dear Moon to Moon, it's Britton, and this is a dark moon download. Here we are. It's the end of the lunar cycle that began with the new moon in Libra nearly a month ago. I've got my cards out, the ones that have been guiding me so magically across this time. I've known I was going to record a dark moon message for you, but I have been receiving suddenly gushes of inspiration today and pictures about a kind of message here that's coming in very quickly, and I don't fully know what I'm going to do. But it has something to do with providing support, providing an anchor, providing a co-regulating voice in support of holding ourselves, holding yourself amidst the extreme chaotic collective energy and the very, very intelligent fear and uncertainty about what's going to be shifting, what is going to happen over the next couple of weeks, months in the United States of America. So I anticipate that some of what comes through here is going to be personal storytelling, sharing what supports me, offering things that you can take or leave. I have some sense for some messages that might want to come through for you, but we're just going to see how that goes. I'm so grateful for my mystical pathway. It's provided so many resources. Just limitless resources for being in the human experience. It was 8 years ago when on election night, I drank like nearly 2 bottles of wine and ate half my kids' Halloween candy, like trying to find a way to be inside my body, watching what was happening. And I remember waking the next morning and I was like startled that the sun had risen. Like the sun rises. How can the sun rise today? In the months that followed, I experienced a lot of things like going to DC to join my best friend from high school and my best friend from college for the Women's March. I felt like I was being plunged to these places that I now see I had shoved all my anger. I didn't have the capacity for holding that much anger back then, so it was a very destabilized time, and also miraculous things began to happen. I started intuitive healing, which is another way of saying I started to be connected. A line began to be connected between the me that's like operating in reality and this inner voice. This inner voice. Another line was created, a line between my body and the energetic frequencies of the planet Earth. Didn't know I had that line. Another line of awareness began to open up, which is realizing that I have this thing called an aura around me and that other people's energies can get in it. Learning how to notice that and remove these energies from my space. Another line was set up. I learned how to open my hands and feel connected to my spirit guides, my team on the other side, my team that's always been there. And they feed me messages, supporting and celebrating me. Meanwhile, in the outer world, I started to do things I hadn't been doing before, like joining neighborhood action groups and learning about how to work with local governments to shift things for the neighborhood. I met these incredible people, but I also felt this sense of like nothing I'm doing is really helping. Is this really doing anything, or is it just making me feel better about the fact that I feel so powerless? Really wanting to understand, like, how could I be supportive? How can this feel less like resistance and more like exuberance, connectivity, animation, aliveness? The erotic. Wasn't using that word then. This is before I had ever had an orgasm in my life. And the events, once those lines got set up to my inner voice, to the earth, with my boundaries and with my spirit guides, it just very quickly started to lay down the tracks for massive change for me. Because I asked for a divorce. I had a vision about working with the moon. I created lines to teachers, started learning how to create ritual, learning what it means to have a container, what it means to energetically focus one's energies towards what you want to happen, what it means to work with the unknown and the cyclical body. I then began to learn astrology because my hermitage began, where I started to have no kids half my time and just basically stayed in a tiny, barely furnished apartment through my separation, where things just got really mystical, and I was kind of round the clock on this. Still working towards my PhD, but really the grip that had on me was falling away. And basically what I started to create for myself 7 years ago, which was initiated by a kind of primal howl 8 years ago, I'm living that now fully, and it's my way of life, and I teach it. And it's my deepest dream to support others in experiencing new ways of being that become initiated through these mystical lines of connection that can then become an anchor and become what we do know amidst uncertainty. In a world where the unknown is what there is, there are no guarantees. So what do I know? The rest I don't know. And it's like everything becomes about how to support oneself, to resource oneself, to nourish oneself, including what boundaries do I need to have, because they're getting in the way of these lines. They're distracting me from my eroticism, my being here. And there's an insistence that I take, that I assume a reality that we actually don't know, because we don't know what's next. And because I know that we don't know what's next, what can I do here, now? And this is just so helpful at carving out a space, to still trust in possibilities, to feel deeply connected to your creative voice and choices. And to not let in the fear that can come from presuming that we know what we can't actually know. In this multidimensional perspective that mysticism offers is one that allows so much contradiction and paradox because more than one thing can be true at the same time, and many timelines are possible and available at the same time, including the viewpoints of past selves and future selves. And so it's possible to not be bypassing anger and bypassing fear. When it's there, it can all coexist with the other parts of you that are still holding focus to the art and craft of your life that is rooted in what really matters to you. Mysticism has been so helpful to my leadership because I used to think that in order to become a leader, you needed to be like all one voice of confidence or all one voice of assuredness, all one voice of knowing, all one voice of clarity. And I just was always like, I don't really know that I can be that confident. Or like, I don't really know that I can be not confused because I'm kind of confused a lot. Or I don't really know that I can be 100% sure in what I'm saying. And mysticism has shown me, my mystical life, that we're many voices at once. We're multiple selves at once. And I can have fear and I can have uncertainty and I can have self-doubt and I can have all of these things present and still be a leader, because the stronger connection is to the part of me that is rooted in my connection to my deep inner voice, which is ancient, the earth, the planet Earth, to understanding the importance of my light shining with a clear aura, not messed up with somebody else's energy dragging me down and confusing me and shaming me, and my connection to my team on the other side, which is, I don't even know what it is. I don't know what it is that I feel is there. It feels like love. That's what I know. And they talk through signs and symbols from the animated world all around us. They're constantly talking to us. Everything's connected. And my trust in that is where I go co-regulate when the rest of me feels scared, uncertain, confused, pissed off, disoriented. And that's just extremely helpful. It's so helpful. At the heart of what I was realizing after the election 8 years ago is just that these forces in charge these cannot be trusted with my life. Like I cannot place trust anywhere except in myself. Like that's where it all has to begin. I'm unsubscribing from these institutions that I thought were protecting me, these systems that I thought were protecting me, these privileges that I thought were protecting me, these like ways of framing how the world works that I was letting myself just trust. That this is how it is that I was taught. No. It's all up for question, actually. I began to decide. I'm not bowing down to this anymore. This temple is now not what I'm visiting anymore. We're not doing this temple, we're not doing this temple, we're not doing this temple, we're not doing this temple. And you know what you're left with at the beginning is a sense of crisis. So that's why there's such a need for these spiritual tools. The tools, these lines of connectivity. I was reading about how totalitarianism thrives where there's spiritual loneliness. And I was remembering how in a reading years ago, my first teacher, Deborah Cremens, looked at one of my family members' energies and said that they appeared profoundly lonely at a spirit level. And that was like a oof, spiritually lonely. The spirit is lonely. There's the pictures I see is there's not like a thriving internal ecosystem with lines of connectivity and curiosity to the world outside, both the seen world and the unseen world. That's the opposite of spiritual loneliness to me would be spiritual connectivity, of like a flourishing ecosystem. And I have to, what feels true to me is that this flourishing ecosystem of lines between us at a spirit level, to our spirits, to everything else around us is created by curiosity. The curious. I was just reading with Moon to Moon, the Course, how Linda Sussman in her book, The Speech of the Grail, said that questions form the connective tissue between us and the world. Questions, curiosities. So it's like, what kills questions and curiosities? Because to me, this is the beginning of loneliness. I ask you to know that already. In Moon to Moon, I was just sharing in a transmission how it is certainty that kills wonder, that kills connectivity, that kills curiosity. When we think that we know that this is the way, it's this way and not that way, they're like this. Anytime that we are so sure that we know so-and-so's bad, they're evil, when we presume we already know, then we cut off our capacity to ask questions and stay curious. And it is questions and curiosity that create lines of connection and connectivity between us and everything else, including the unseen, which includes the underworld, which includes our ancestors, the dead, the spirit realm. It also includes those beings that are hidden to us from our sight. It also includes the above world, as in the celestial world, the universe all around us that is actually right here in us and around us. These worlds also would love our questions and our curiosities. And they answer us here on the eve of what we call Samhain in the witches' world, the cross-quarter holiday between the equinox and the solstice, when it is said that the veils between the worlds are thin. Perhaps they're here to help us now. What questions would we bring to them if we could trust that they'll be answered, they'll be responded to, and that will show up through signs and symbols? Questions. I think that this is really profound because, like, the picture that I see is that if we can feel into this picture of like profound spiritual loneliness being how many human bodies are feeling right now, that there's the state of their inner ecosystem is has that sort of that like sadness of not feeling connected to that inner world. That inner world feeling sad and empty, which makes it more available to be filled with powerful storytelling and believed then that storytelling can become very real and become the compass rather than the internal compass. A rich spiritual ecosystem within is going to be one that is going to register when somebody's story, say an affiliation group, a political group, whatever outside system, celebrity culture, beauty culture, like fill in the type of culture that could talk to you, right? The richer and more vibrant your inner spiritual ecosystem is, the more confidence you can have in yourself. Confidence that's basically self-trust. The more self-trust you can have, that things are not going to just be able to even enter that aren't in resonance with your internal ecosystem. Like, it's just not even going to enter. You probably won't even see it. So something that is just not in affinity with you. It's not in affinity with your inner ecosystem. And so it's not going to be compelling. Like, oh, thanks for trying to tell me that's such and such story from celebrity culture is supposed to be so compelling to me. It's just not. Like, I probably won't even see that headline. And then in an external way, we create our own algorithms. We create our feeds based on what we're putting our attention to, so that a rich inner ecosystem is going to create a rich outer ecosystem of selecting affinity, selecting resonance based on what feels really good to your inner spirit self. And this is how, like, we can change, like, things and people and relationships that once we thought were fulfilling, we can start to feel like, this isn't enriching my life anymore. Like, I don't actually feel nourished by this. And there's deep spiritual loneliness out there. It's like, what do we do with that? But what I trust to be true is that in a fractal way, for each of us, the more we trust in living from curiosity, and we give time and space to cultivating a rich inner ecosystem for our spirit selves, connecting to the inner voice and to the planet, to spirit guidance on the other side, connecting to the spirit speech in the animated world all around us, through plants, through birds, insects. The more that we've created this connectivity, this burgeoning, fecund, loamy, rich connectivity from inside to the outside, there's more capacity to stay curious, to ask questions, and to create connectivity and connective tissue between ourselves and what's in affinity with us, what we want to learn about, what we want to be more connected to, what we want to feel expanded by, what we want to enrich us. And it feels like there's more self-trust the more we really feel ourselves resourcing the inner world. There's this self-trust that begins to emerge, that you're the one that's going to be with you with whatever happens wherever you go. So that whatever happens, your rich inner world's going to be there to interface with whatever comes up. Because there are no guarantees. I mean, this is ultimately, it's not just the mystic's path, it's the witch's path. There are no guarantees. We're collaborating with mystery. We don't know what's going to happen. But we have magic. We have the capacity to stay with the rich spiritual ecosystem inside ourselves and connect it to what we feel resonance with all around us, human and non-human, seen and unseen. And we can trust in our dreams, in imaginations, which we stitch with our questions to, in a fractal way, create the world that we want from ourselves. It really comes from this inner richness. It's very difficult to get to that inner rich place if parts of us are like really hooked in trusting that these systems are going to take care of us. That if you just do what your affiliation group says to do to be a good person, that you'll be safe. This flourishing garden is the compass that moves with you wherever you go, holding all of your multiplicities and not taking any shit from oppressive voices, wounded energies that have nothing to do with you and your power. It was about 5 years ago, 2019, I did one of my first ever online webinars called Witch. This was a very sassy thing for me to be doing at the time, given that I had only been discovering my witch self for a couple of years. So, there were voices of being an imposter. And also I had the eyes of my social community here where I live watching me. I live in a pretty conservative place. And so I also had voices about social ostracism. I didn't really care about myself, but I was a little bit afraid that, am I fucking up things for my daughters? Are we seriously going to be kicked out? But this other part of me is I have to speak these words. I want us all to embrace this word. I want to participate in myself as a human who identifies with this word. I want to honor this word with my love and attention and give that publicly. I want to spend time contemplating this word so it will teach me things and continue to transmute me for love. So recently I remembered this transmission message that came through from my guides right before the meetup. They told me, because I asked them, is there anything else you want me to convey tonight? And I heard, a love story with the earth is still possible. A love story with the earth is still possible. A love story with the earth is still possible. Yeah, that's pretty beautiful. That's a pretty beautiful message there, and really kind of wild because I've been doing all this earth magic lately. I had this experience recently of walking in the woods and seeing this mound of wildflowers with butterflies teeming all over it. I had to stop and just watch this glittering, fluttering earth. I really didn't have time. It was like, hurry up, we gotta get back. You gotta get things done. And it was like, no, I'm giving this to myself. And I looked at it and I just was like immediately connected to my dog that passed away in the summer. And I just thought, I miss Buddy. And I just had this sense of like Buddy being under the mound. It's not like we put his ashes there, but and it's since then been very, very, very alive to me, this picture of all that we're seeing that's alive is over what has died. And that connection between the above world and the underworld feels really special to share with you here at this time of year when it is so powerful to feel connected to those who have passed on and allow them to talk to you. And if they're not using the English language, they'll talk to you through sign and symbol. And I found it to be true that if you just go ahead and presume that that's true and is what there is and is happening for you all the time, the more I have found you notice it and the more you feel so held. And this feeling held is so supportive when we're in times of such thick uncertainty. And so many parts of us are holding a lot of fear, like legit fear and anxiety about what might happen, what could happen. And that sense of the lunar part of us feeling afraid is so loud. You know, that sense of, are we going to be okay? Feels so vulnerable. Vulnerable. Our capacity to be wounded. Our capacity to be wounded. And so right now, at this point, besides voting, I'll just say this for those of you, let's talk more about how to feel grounded. Let's talk more about how to feel grounded. Besides voting, which is a thing that you can do and a thing I'm deeply encouraging you to do, please vote. Beyond voting, we can't know what's next. So you can be helping other people get to vote and bugging people to vote who you're worried are not going to vote. There are things you can do, right? There are things you can do to support this main thing. And then it's like, what else can you do? Then this, like, the witch's ability, the mystic's ability to be able to then surrender what you cannot control over to mystery. What can you control, right? A mystical thing that could be super supportive to you right now, if you like to make visualization meditations, you can visualize coming fully into your mystical space, really ground yourself, connect to your light, fill your aura with golden light. Most of you listening have probably learned some meditation techniques from me, or maybe you have people that you love in YouTube or other teachers. Really getting to that place where you are like hooked up to like the most loving, beautiful, exquisite energy. It just feels so good. Feels so nurturing inside of this space. Something that you can do is, if there's any energy out there that's like getting into your head, or like it feels toxic, like from family members or whatever, you can invite that energy to get taken up by the vastness of this love, the love that's made of the whole universe, and ask it to be taken away from you as far as possible and transmuted into the highest, most expansive, most beautiful energetics of love. Let it be alchemized into love. Something at a spirit level you can also imagine doing is from a real rooted place inside of yourself, where you feel really connected to yourself. Some of y'all know my meditation, All of Me Inside of Me. Just feeling really connected to yourself and your own truth. You can send love to all the humans out there that are afraid, who are tortured by this choice, who maybe have a different choice than everyone in their ecosystem, and they're having to deal with the social burdens of and the like tribal burdens of having a different opinion, having a different desire, having a different preference than the people around you that are, and it's like a tribal energy, this tribal energy of like, we all have to do this together. We all have to agree together. If you don't agree with us, you're shut out of the tribe, right? Like that's what that energy takes over when we're spiritually lonely inside. So when someone has built up this spiritual support inside to want it to be different than the people around them, like, whew, just like sending so much love to all of those humans out there holding that right now, like where you legit don't feel like you can tell your family who you voted for. That's very sad. That's very sad. So from a place of, like, to me, I feel strong when I feel like, I'm regulated. I'm going to send love, and may it find whoever it's meant for. May it not find people who really don't want it, because, I'm not interested in sending my energy to people who don't want it. Another really powerful thing, and we talked about this in Cave Space last week, is really thinking about people's access to you. Not just people you know, but like groups, companies. What are you letting into your space? Where normally you may not mind like differing points of like of a wide variety of points of view. And maybe you normally really like to cultivate like contradictory voices. You might be finding like right now you have like less bandwidth for that. And there might just be people you want to mute for a week to 2 weeks to a month. Maybe you want to choose not to be in social media at all. Like, what would it feel like to say, I'm not going to be watching the news at all? Like, what nourishes you about the news? What would it be like to just not watch the news? Not sure? Give it 24 hours. Like, what can you do for yourself in times that are a little more extreme? You can be a little more extreme with your boundaries then. Like, in this period of time, I'm not going to fill in the blanks to support yourself, to limit access to your brain, limit access to your nervous system. It's not forever. Maybe there's that family member, maybe there's somebody in your space that you're just like, I'm not trying to burn the bridge with you. I'm muting you temporarily, like, just not going to be responsive with this person right now. And you can visualize everything around you being pushed out like a mile away in every direction, 10 miles away in every direction. That's not hurting anybody, but you can feel energetically separated from everybody else's energy. Like, you have permission to do this. You're the one that can give you that permission. And just try it. See if it helps. That's what's so fun about the mystical life, is it's like curious to see what it would be like to put everything in your life 10 miles away from you in every direction, seeing how it feels. Why not? Questions. Questions form the connective tissue between you and the world. For me, I feel sort of like spiritually connected to the musicians that kept playing on the Titanic. Like, I feel so rooted by staying connected to my creativity, to what I think of as my craft, my music, my art, which is my teachings, my transmissions, my creations, my collaborations, the voice that I share based on what's inspiring me and what's coming through. Like, to me, this is how I continue to make art, even in times of deep uncertainty. For whoever feels supported by them, that is so beautiful. Just like really inviting you to allow yourself to be co-regulated by the voices that you love to listen to, the music that you love to listen to. To me, it's really about like getting to the other side of this final election window. Like, let's get to the other side. What can you do to help yourself get to the other side? If it's supportive to go for longer walks every day, that's amazing. Like, it's really right now, I think about asking yourself what you can do to support yourself from the inside so that you can be, so that we can get to the other side of this unknown. So we're living with a really big unknown right now. The unknown is all that there normally is anyway. We just can often think that we know, like that we have a lot of known. And right now we have a lot of unknown nationally. And really it's internationally. So it can be really supportive to do what you can do, and then it's all resourcing from within, setting the boundaries you need for that, and giving yourself what helps you feel regulated. Self-regulation just being the most powerful way that you can care for your body right now. I'm feeling into if there's anything else that I wanted to share. What's coming through just to celebrate is just celebrating all the humans out there right now, creating loving, nurturing support for others who are giving their groundedness, their capacity, their own regulation to creating spaces for others. You know, when I'm one of those people that's affected by ASMR, and sometimes at night I like to go and TikTok and look at different ASMR people, and it is so sweet. These communities with these facilitators just really wanting to support those who are having trouble sleeping. You know, at the most basic level, it is so beautiful what these, I think of them as witches. These are witches, helping the night owls, helping the anxious, the tired, the depleted, the afraid, the spent, to fall asleep and relax. It's oh my God, it's so beautiful. It just puts me in the best mood, the kind of words that these facilitators say, and then their community says back to them. I'm just oh my God, I love y'all. And it makes me think, how can I be of service with my regulated body? You know, it's just how can I make something? Can I give my grounded energy to anyone who wants to co-regulate up against it? Seriously. Because it's when you're grounded and regulated, you can give that frequency and you are not going to lose it. You know, if someone comes in that's highly dysregulating to us, we could then lose it. But in general, if we're just sharing ourselves from a regulated state, we're providing the energetics for someone to interface with to help them get to regulation. And that's such a gift, which is why in a fractal way, it's so powerful the more human beings learn the skills of self-regulating and being able to then be regulated bodies in the field with others collectively is really, really impactful. And so I'm just going to offer that for all y'all listening who do create space, you know, who can get on Instagram Live and just talk to people. This is, of course, only if this sounds inspiring and fun to you. But to me, it's what a cool way to hold a candle up, because just when you pass a candle around, the OG candle is not going to lose its fire by being passed around to light other people's candles, right? In the next 8 days, if you do feel your body system, you're so grateful that your body system feels so grounded in yourself, and you feel inspired to be supportive to other human beings who aren't able to access that in themselves right now, it could be a really potent time to share your voice with others and feel connected as human beings. Like, then going back to this idea of like, what is the opposite of spiritual loneliness, right? It's this spiritual connectivity, spiritual connectedness. And I'm really holding that in my heart right now, because to the degree that I have capacity, and I now have over 200 individuals between my 4 live courses right now. So I am holding a lot of space with my capacity right now. But like, it feels like an interesting and an inspiring call within, just like to meditate on inspiring, fun, joyful feeling opportunities to engage in connectivity with other humans right now, especially as support in such uncertain times. Yeah. So thank you for listening. I'd love to hear from you if there's anything that came through for you that you want to share. I hope this is supportive. I'm thanking the mysteries for all the ways that my life has changed in the last 8 years, helping me to cultivate deep inner regenerative ecosystem connected to many lines of support, helping me to trust. All right, sending so much love. The Unshaming the 8th House is going to be out real soon, and it's really deep and really beautiful. Hope you enjoy that one. Hope you're loving the series. Exciting ones to come. Take care, take care, take care.